Okay, good evening, everybody. We're going to call the regular meeting of the Board of Finance to order for Wednesday, March 27th. We have a relatively short agenda this evening, which is to approve the minutes of our meeting, followed by a presentation for the Board of Selectmen budget, and then a discussion around the capital improvement plan, which also will be presented by the Board of Selectmen. So the first item on our agenda is to approve the minutes of our March 12th regular meeting, and I'll take a motion.
Second.
Okay. Any changes, corrections, deletions, additions that we have on this?
Nope, good job.
So all those in favor say aye?
Aye.
Aye.
Okay, they are approved. Leslie, good job on the minutes as always. Okay, next item on our agenda is to Board of Selectmen fiscal year 2013-2014 budget presentation. At this point, I always turn it over to the first selectman for a presentation. So, Mary, it's all yours.
Thank you. If you want to just go right to voting to approve it, that's fine.
We could do that. We could do that.
I'm going to save you some time.
Good
evening, and I want to thank the Board of Selectmen for working on a number of budget workshops, and our staff and our finance director for putting together the budget for you tonight to pass along to the taxpayers of Simsbury. What we have is a summary of our budget, including our pension, and be happy to answer any questions once we go through the.
Do you want us to wait, Mary, till you're all done for questions, or you want us to, as you go through these, ask questions in the budget book? Or
whatever you prefer.
Okay.
It's your pleasure. So we start with the goals of our budget. We followed up by implementing our program last year. We asked our department heads to really examine their departments, come up with some goals and their needs. We looked at the pressures on the budget, our budget history. We added a new feature this year, which is a breakdown of where the tax dollars, how they're spent by department, so taxpayers have a better idea of where their actual dollars go. We reviewed our cost-saving efforts. We had a number of workshops, and we adopted our budget and presented it for you. Obviously, our goals on the town side are public health and safety, particularly with our storms over the last 2 years. We've gotten a lot of good practice on that. We focused on quality services, and we looked at some of the benchmarking to keep us ranked among the highest towns in the valley and in the state. Obviously, on the town, there were some budget drivers. Certainly, health care is going up. Our pension costs, because of the investment returns, has been going up. Our contract settlements for our settled contracts obviously include wage increases we had a budget for. And utilities and materials also increased as everything else. When you combine that with our revenues, you can see our grand list is stagnant. We are in a revaluation year, so we have to implement that program as well. We are anticipating some state aid reductions and have not factored in the car tax proposed by the governor at this point, because it is optional for next year, and we recommend optioning no, even if the state legislature passes it. So we did not factor that into our budget for next year. And certainly with our largest taxpayer being unknown as to what's going to happen with the property, while we're assured of the revenue for next year, we will obviously have to keep that in mind. We took a look at our budget history to put our town budget in context, and you can see we have been not only flat over the last 5 years, but we have significantly decreased our budget. We were able to do that through concessions with our staff, and we're very grateful for that, and through some introducing some not filling of vacancies, introducing some volunteer efforts where we had paid staff. All of those efforts obviously made a big difference. When you have a wage freeze, obviously your pension, it affects your pension costs and other costs, so we have seen the ripple effect of those savings over the last several years as well. We put it in context. You can see the overall town budget has been relatively flat and decreased over the last several years. We've put that in context for you, so you can see, even though the Board of Selectmen budget is just a small piece, the other budget, the Board of Ed budget, the non-public school, and the debt budget have also been relatively flat. What we tried to do is find out what the median taxpayer in Simsbury pays for taxes. This gives you a sense of what the tax burden is on our taxpayers. We took the median tax assessment for the years 2006 and showed that the value of an average home, median home, was $256,000. From 2007 to 2011, home values rose, and the median home was $330,000. And this is new data just from the assessor today. The median net taxable assessment is $193,000 for a home value of approximately $276,000. So you can see quite clearly how values of homes have declined with this recent revaluation. When we break down the tax bill on a yearly basis, we wanted to show you where that median tax bill, if you were a median taxpayer and you paid $7,484 a year to the town, where would that money be spent? As you can see from this chart, obviously the Board of Selectmen budget is a small piece of that pie of that median tax bill. The Board of Selectmen receives about $1,479 to do the services that we do. We include the fire district, non-public schools, and debt retirement. Even though the town doesn't levy, we don't budget the fire district. It is collected through our taxes, so the taxpayer is asked to pay that, and we do collect that for the fire district. We broke it down to monthly, so you could see what the town spends per month. Again, you can see the town, the median tax bill breaks down to about $624 a month. The Board of Selectmen, the town, receives $123 of that in order to provide the services that we provide. We took a look at the monthly median tax bill over the last 8 years just to see what the impact has been on our taxpayers. And because the town has had significant stable expenditures, you can see that our actual monthly median tax bill has actually stayed the same since 2009. It dipped a little, and then, but we really are at the $123 a month tax bill that we have been at since 2009. We then took that monthly fee and we broke it down per department, and I won't read all these. I know you have the slides in front of you, but we have 35 sworn personnel. We are trying to benchmark what that provides. We had 33,000 calls last year. Our road paving and maintenance plan, one of our biggest departments, we have 164 miles of roadway and 3,850 catch basins. So you can see the significant amount of infrastructure that we need to maintain. We have 20 miles of road resurfacing that we try to do on an annual basis, and repaint crosswalks and other things as well. We have 18 highway department personnel and 12 plow trucks, and that number remains constant in our next recommended budget. Our library, we continue to be a very high volume user by our patrons. We had 34,556 patrons attend library programs, and we track questions that our staff provides. We have also processed a high number of land use applications this year. We have 766 building permits issued. In fact, all of our land use services are up significantly, that we have added additional building official staff in this year's recommended budget. We have about $17 million of new development that's been approved and is on the books that will come in as new revenue next year. We also have an engineering capital project services. We have 9 capital projects, and we're currently managing grants of about $3.8 million. The next item comes as no surprise to all of you. Over the last 2 years, we've coordinated 5 major natural disaster incidents. We have been successful in getting our residents to register on CT alerts and Simsbury alerts, 2 programs that are separate. You have to sign up for both of them independently. Our local alert alerts our residents to local conditions and local emergency information, but the state alerts is separate, and it goes out to warn people of statewide emergencies and statewide information. We implemented a new emergency response through our news and announcements to notify folks as well, and we continue to try to implement that so that our residents actually have the most up-to-date information they can have during an emergency. Another large department is our Parks Department. We manage 2,300 acres of open space. With the acquisition of the Ethel Walker, open space will be at 31% of our town as open space. We have 440 acres of town-owned parks, playing fields, new improvements at Simsbury Farms, and expect a banner year at the golf course this year. Our Social Service Department, our Senior Center, we continue to wrestle with folks, elderly and those who can't afford our services. And while the state has declined their support of Dial-A-Ride, we've noticed an increase in need for Dial-A-Ride, particularly the out-of-town Dial-A-Ride program, which is not funded by the state. And that's put additional pressures on our town as well. So when you look at what the monthly cost of $123 to the town goes for, you can tell very quickly by this slide that our police department, our public safety department, is our largest cost. That's where we have significant staff, and our pension and benefits are a significant piece of our budget, followed by our public works department, which obviously is really does a great job. We can't say it enough. And we're going to be challenged this year because our highway superintendent, Wally McDonald, will be retiring on April 1st. And we have just filled that, but that'll be the first transition in that department in 29 years. So that's a significant change there. We took a look at our 8-year budget comparison over the last 8 years, and you can see from the years 2005 to 2009, we had a net increase, but in the last years, again, between 2009 and 2013, we've had a significant decrease. One significant change in the budget is obviously because of the number of full-time employees. We're down to 141. That's actually the lowest it's been in our recent history. We've recommended adding, as I said to you, a little bit more funding back for a building official, but it's not enough to increase that full-time slot. But we've also added some technology, particularly in our tax collection department, which enabled us to eliminate a position in that department. This year, we're recommending, instead of a full-time position, when that position does become vacant with a retirement, filling those with 2 part-time positions, which will save us benefits and provide more flexibility to the tax collectors.
Eric, can we just interrupt for one quick?
Yeah.
Peter's got a question for you.
Part-time, does this include part-time people or just full-time?
Full-time. This is full-time.
I noticed in the budget and the tax collector, you're going to part-time.
We are.
So.
Yeah, we are. And Colleen's here to answer any questions. We've noticed a significant number of folks who now pay online.
Okay. And
a lot of our services have been automated, which provides a huge difference in what we used to do. It was very time-consuming. Because of the coverage, we only have 2 full-time employees in that department. So if one is out, there's only 1 person in that department, and it's hard to cover for illnesses and lunch hours. So tax collector Colleen's recommended filling that 1 full-time position with 2 part-time positions, which gives more flexibility and provides some overlap.
The part-time, the hours, how many hours will those be each?
One is...
Right now we have 17 and 12.
17 and 12. Do we have other part-time employees in the town?
Yes.
We do. How many more do we have?
In the assessor's office, we have part-time.
Okay.
17 hours a week we have.
I think the total number cuts to something like 40 by the time you look at the library.
Yeah, there's a lot. It's hard to... Yeah.
The library has a ton.
And we're not talking,
Here?
right, we're not talking about seasonal employees and that
Right.
number.
We're talking-
Okay.
But just in town hall?
In town hall?
In town hall, we've
With
got
Joan, 1.
2?
two, but yeah.
But if you,
Oh, no, we
3.
have a third one.
Yes,
The new
About
person.
3.
We have a new person. So we have
If
3.
you add in the seasonal employees and the Parks and Rec Department, and so forth, you got a large number of
Oh,
people.
yeah.
Exactly.
The
We
camps and all
doubles.
that.
Yeah, we
Oh,
doubles.
if you're talking
Our
kids, we can get you the number. It's 100,
Well, I
over 100.
understand, but I mean, I think I saw someplace that we send out, Deb, you probably know this,
300.
W-2s.
Yes.
Yeah, I mean, it's a lot, there's a
Yeah.
lot of
There's a
people.
lot of
But that
W-2s.
includes
The camps.
The election workers too that hit over the $600.
The reason we track full-time employees is for our pension liability and for benefits, because obviously part-timers don't get those benefits.
Okay.
How are we doing payroll now?
Conservation, in-house,
In-house, it's in-house.
in-house.
Same.
Cash.
But we're not,
Yeah.
but we're not using a payroll service.
No, we're not.
right?
No, we have
It's
our
way
own.
too expensive.
We have our system in-house.
Some of our cost-saving efforts over the years have been obviously applying for grants. Our staff has done a great job with getting grants from everything for Eno renovations to gazebo improvements, to road improvements. So we're very proud that we've been able to subsidize a lot of what would have been in our town budget through grant receipts. We have volunteer boards and commissions. We also have volunteers who sit in our town hall and direct and welcome folks to town hall, which was formerly a full-time position. We had the retiree health plan switch that the Board of Selectmen approved, and that was a significant savings not only for the town but for our retirees. We have 4,400 users for our online tax payment option. Folks can now pay online through checking as well, which is free, and that's really made a big difference. We have a big push coming this year to get more users on those and fully automate that. Yeah.
Mary, on the retirement, on the health plan, do we have the hard number in the budget? I know the Board of Ed didn't have their actual number when they presented their budget.
We're projecting, I just got today, I heard what the rate would be, but we've already reduced for that and with our OPEB liability, which is in that account.
So we think we've budgeted the most accurate information we have.
Gotcha.
Yeah. And obviously, we've received some energy saving awards as well. Just to give you some history of the budget process this year, I asked our department heads to come in with their requests for new programs and what they'd like to do, and no surprise, they had a lot of good ideas, and those ideas totaled about a 5.5% increase in the budget. We then sat with each of the department heads, reviewed their budget requests, and reduced that number to a 0.5% increase. That was the budget that the Board of Selectmen received. After a number of workshops and a lot of great questions and presentations by the department heads themselves, so they had another chance to argue and lobby for their pet projects. The board did add back about $27,880 and made some changes to the budget. That brings us to a 0.65% increase, a total of $18,156,690. A couple of things that they did add back was a planning consultant for the Hartford property to assist the town in marketing and assessing the land use at that site. It's a significant site, about 600,000 square feet, and our largest taxpayer, and we felt we needed some additional professional advice in addressing that long-term plan. We did add a little additional funding for school resource officer. It'll take us some time to hire that position, so the new position is not funded at 100%.
That's in the town budget?
In the town budget. We've asked
Sharing it?
The town currently pays 100% of the school resource officer for the Board of Ed. The additional second officer would be split 50-50. So it's pay for half, get one free. And that's what the town is doing.
Mary, you're just too generous. I've always thought that about you.
Sounds like government accounting to me.
No free lunch.
Don't worry, at the end of the day,
Never.
the taxpayers pay
Never.
for it one way or the other, whether it's your budget or the Board of
It
Ed.
all comes out of the same pot. You're absolutely right. Some of the other highlights of the increases, obviously, the board did hear your recommendation and did hear the pension subcommittee's recommendation to change the assumptions. That is a very significant increase because our budget is so small. So $190,885 is the current number we have for that, changing that pension assumption as recommended by the Board of Finance. We did adopt that. We, as I said, added back funding for a part-time building official because of the increase, which is a good thing, of applications and interest in land use development. The Farmington Valley Health District, interestingly enough, was one of our biggest increases. There was a $16,000 increase in that to catch up with the backlog of inspections. We reviewed the work plan of the health district and found that we didn't feel they were inspecting all of the various institutions at a rate that the towns felt comfortable with. So there was a plan put together, and that increase totals about $16,000. We also budgeted for general liability insurance increases and wage increases for settled contracts.
Okay.
Just tonight, we're presenting our budget, and we're happy to answer any questions, and look forward to setting the public hearing with you on the 9th, and the budget referendum we're looking at potentially on May 14th.
Great. All right, Mary, thank you. I think at this point, what we'll do is I'll open it up to questions for you. I think coming in at a 1.71 budget is admirable. I know there were issues there with respect to pensions, and we went through pensions ad nauseum to make sure that we took care of the pension aspect of it, and make sure that not only from a town standpoint that our liabilities were covered, but also from our employee standpoint who were covered by those plans. We're going to go through, like we have over the last couple of years, and ask them to take either wage freezes or provide contributions they want to know, and I think we should give them assurances that their pensions are going to be funded, and we are going to take care of those. And I think that's one of the very important accomplishments that we've done over the last years, outside of the safety issues and the storm-related issues. So at this point, I do have a number of questions, but I'm going to defer to the members, and we'll go through, like we always do, ask questions, and then at the end, I'll come in and ask a few more. Mr. Askham is going to kick us off.
I assume with this is on just the operating budget we're on?
This is just the operating at
now,
this point.
Is the capital non-recurring in that, or not?
Yeah.
Is that part of
Capital non-recurring is in the budget, not the, is in there, not in the capital,
Right.
which is separate,
So
right?
as far as the capital non-recurring number, do you have that number?
It's in your...
It's under tab 31.
Right, tab 31.
That was tab 30.
Yeah, tab
No.
31.
31.
Well, capital non-recurring is 30.
31.
31.
So is that, did I read that right, 416?
Pardon me?
416,000?
416,341
Yeah.
from the general fund, and a total of 596,601, and that includes the LoSiP program for 100 million.
Now you have some other numbers over to the side, but those aren't being requested, it's just the 416.
Right.
We're going to get a number. I noticed there was just a couple of safety items in there. You have safety items down for the police department,
Correct.
234.85.
3485?
You don't make quite the font size that I put in our office, so older people can read it, but
It's deliberate. It's deliberate.
The numbers
we violate the font size rule.
She knows everybody on the Board of Finance is over 40.
I know.
But we're saving paper.
Yeah.
Okay.
What are you looking
No,
at?
I just, those 3485, we're not funding those?
No.
Okay.
They were, we had them ranked 1
Yeah.
through 5, and 5 is the lowest priority, and the chief ranked these as the lowest priority. He had a higher priority of 1 for the APIS machines in the lobby and the booking room, which was, they're the new automatic fingerprint machines that they had to get, and he rated those as a 1.
We would fund it if we had more money.
Were there other priorities that were in between for the police department between 1 and 5? Or it was just, he had some 1s and he had some 5s?
Yes, and the Exchange server hardware software for $55,000, that's police department also. That's an upgrade that he has to have also in the police department. And he's been working with Rick Pisano in our offices to get that number up. So it's
Which one was that, Marianne?
the Exchange server.
Fourth
hardware
line
software.
down.
We have to buy a new Exchange server for
All
the
right.
police department.
But that is in there.
Yes, it
That is in there, right, okay, all right.
There's nothing
Nothing that's
that he
not in
requested
here.
that's not on. That's what you're-
Yeah, no, I see it, okay.
One thing on the goals, we're doing...
Which tab are you on?
Well, just in general, they have goals in some sections,
Yeah.
developed, which is good to see. There's a couple sections I'd love to put some of our input in, I think in the finance area, if we could put some input into the goals.
Absolutely.
You know, I wrote a few down when I was going through this, so I won't bore you with them tonight, but,
Can you send them to us?
yeah, I got about 5 or 6 things that would just
Sure, we can.
help. Also, the key statistics are good as you track that. I think that gives us some good metrics. So I know one of your goals, long-term goals, is to improve that and to to keep working in those areas.
Yeah.
So I think that's a good goal to have. It gives the reader a lot better understanding of what the numbers are. The numbers can be confusing, but this is kind of, it's good. Was there anything not in there that should be in there that the board felt?
Yes. In wrestling with the CNR, one of the things that we've noticed because of the storm over the last couple of years was a significant need for tree work. And we wrestled with that, where that would go in the budget, because it is not an annual, we did add back funding for tree work in our annual budget, so we did beef that up, we've been adding over the years. But there are trails not open. We have a maintenance plan that we requested from Jerry Turner that we're getting this week. That really would require us to go out and do a one-time clearing of trails, cliff cutting, working with forest management to look at really some needs in that area. So we wrestled with.
Is it just trails, or does it include?
Trails, it's open space. It's really open.
But does it include? How about roads?
It doesn't include roads. We budgeted for the roads. So we
No.
try to separate.
Trees are in the roads budget.
Yes.
Okay.
Yeah, so what we tried to separate was public works, and it was a long discussion that the board had several times, because we wrestled with annual tree maintenance, because we wanted to make sure that was included in the budget, and this real need for tree work, and we wrestled with that. And when it came time to look at our budget, it didn't fit in the operating budget. It didn't fit in the CNR because of the maintenance needs of the equipment. So that is an item that we would like to revisit with the Board of Finance. We know that we would include language in the sale of Farrell's Farm, that funding could be used from that sale for possibly open space maintenance, and the board expressed interest in maybe looking at that funding as an opportunity to get ahead on some of this maintenance work. So it's not in the CNR, it's not in the budget, the annual maintenance is, but we really welcome an opportunity to have a
What's the
conversation.
financial dimension of it?
We don't have we asked Jerry Toner to put together a report, so we'll know this week, but I haven't received the report yet.
But when
They
I,
didn't, you know,
when I,
I'll go to Nick and then you,
well,
Pam.
I want to, just following up on this.
Okay.
When I see under tab 19, that under highway facility and maintenance, you've got a budget of about $1,053,000. You're estimating you're going to come in real close to that, but the request for this coming year was $1,289,000. Is that, and you paired that way back. Is that what you're talking about?
Tom Roy, and we can provide more information. He would be like to be more aggressive in our road maintenance and more aggressive in our open space maintenance. So it's a combination.
So we're talking about a trade-off between what we think we can do and what fits in the budget.
Right.
Exactly, but that's, so that's not even the line item, it's really in some of that line item, but Jerry Toner's line
Jerry
items as
Toner
well.
was the one who took the largest piece of that open space maintenance. We had to reduce his facilities maintenance. We put $40,000, Tom Roy had asked, and we were actually moving that at one point, and he asked us not to, because this is ongoing, it's for the roads. And so that's why there's $40,000 for tree work for roads.
While we added back funding this year's budget, the Director of Public Works would like to add back more, because he feels that we can do more roads, we need to do more roads. And it's a balance of what he'd like to do in the perfect world and what we felt comfortable increasing.
Can we just follow up on her? Can you point to us where the 40,000 is?
It came out of the Board of Selectmen cut out $35,000 in parks and open space maintenance out of facilities management account. I don't know what number that is.
But were you referring to what is in there?
Under Public Works, it's under highway facilities and programs expenditures.
The money we added back.
The 40,000.
Well,
Which tab are you on, Mary Ann?
It would be tab
19.
19. for you.
Still on 19.
Yes, and it's on the.
It says 20.
Yeah, no, but that's the tab 19.
Doesn't look like anything's added back, that's why I'm not
And
following.
again, this was a Board of Selectmen adjustment, taking out $35,000 from the facility maintenance, which was the adding back of the tree work. and they put that into roads because they felt that we did want to start chipping away and increasing the roads.
Okay, so tab 19, which is Public Works, 3.5 million roughly, okay? You're saying that there's $40,000 of tree work in here somewhere?
Yes, it's under highways, facilities, and programs, under the expenditures.
Okay, but we don't have any specific line item within what we have for tree work?
Well, what I was noting was that the next to last line item there, the request was for $230,000 more than we think than what we budgeted this year and what we expect to spend, and yet they pared that back down to a number that's lower than what's in the current year budget. So, I mean,
It's hard to see the
Our LoSiP
40,000.
funding was also increased. Our road, our state road
yes.
monies was increased.
Now, when you were doing your presentation and so forth, we got 164 miles of roads, and we've resurfaced 20 last year and 9 miles of crack seal. I mean, I'm just sitting there, what?
That's not per year.
No.
That's
That isn't per
cumulative.
year?
No.
No,
That's cumulative.
It's
Usually up between 15, but that's when we're running on our bonded program.
Right.
Once
Yeah.
the bonded program drops out, we go down.
I understood that to be what we're doing per
Yeah.
year.
That's what we did last year.
right.
So we're doing,
Miles.
we're essentially doing all the roads in the town once every 6 years, approximately?
No.
So that can't be
You don't
right.
agree with
Not
that?
every 6 years.
That
no.
cannot be right.
The miles of road, but that's not, it depends on, we did 20 miles last year.
Last year was the biggest mileage we've ever done.
Right.
Well, I was combining
Have a bond.
I was combining the resurfacing and the crack seal together, and just sort of trying to get an idea how often we do all the roads in town.
The crack seal we do about every 5 to 8 years. What we call sealing, pavement sealing, you do about every 12 years, and what's called structural overlay is done about every 18 years.
That's the really heavy-duty stuff, right?
So, roads is my favorite.
Your road.
Roads is my favorite. There is
You
an
don't follow it
exhibit.
either.
They haven't done mine.
There was an exhibit that we saw last year. It was done the year before, and it showed there were substantial roads in town that were so far gone and deteriorated that they couldn't just be surfaced. And we went through the 3 levels of finishing, and there were a bunch of roads in town that were so deteriorated. And I want to know when they're going to get finished, because I don't see even in your long term any more funding for roads, and it feels like we're cutting back on that again. And I think that most residents feel like having roads is one of the things they should get out of their town tax money.
I'd be happy to have Tom come back and go through how many roads we do and show you the program that we're using.
So the question I have, he didn't answer it last time, is when will we get all of the roads that have been identified as being unable to be sealed and repaired using simple systems, they're being put off? And sooner or later, you'll get to those roads. But how many years from now before people who have the worst roads in town will have those addressed? Because once you get on that bad road list, you don't get it done, and it just keeps getting worse and worse. And what I'd like to see is a schedule, and now I'm more confused because it appears there's money for roads in lots of places. There's pockets of it. And can we see all of the road work, both long-term against the bonding, short-term, and then whatever departments you have the road work put in?
Because the state provides funding.
Right, LoSiP funding, I understand that, but can we look at the roads as one big program with all the different pots and look at analysis that will tell us, multiple years ago, we identified some really bad roads. How many years before we're really going to fix all those? And I do live on one of them.
Not that this is personal.
No,
to you.
it's not, but I just think roads are something that everybody should be entitled to have repaired.
But I think it's a good question with respect to, we authorized a bunch of money, I think it was $2 million.
You did.
Okay. And that was on a schedule for 2 years?
Right.
Yes, and
Okay.
that was bonded money,
Right.
and that, on the long-term capital plan, We've actually put in paving management. Every 2 years, we're putting in money.
But this is the second year, and you're skipping
So does
it.
this carry us, what we authorize carry us to the next bonding period is what my question is.
Right, well, this last one,
Or are we
I
skipping a
think that
year?
money is gone. That money's
Right.
gone. That money's
And
been
we're,
spent.
and we're skipping next
We are.
year, so we're going backwards. And we're not doing it every other year.
We're
So are we
trying
skipping
to-
1 year or 2 years?
I believe.
You're spending less money on it. Right now, we use LoCIP money, which is up to around 180,000.
Right.
We also use
We added
a
to the
general
CNO.
fund item, which I believe is 400 and some thousand. So, we are up between 500,000 and 600,000 a year, but ideally, we want to be up around
$1 million.
1.4.
I think that's what he wanted. Okay.
Can I just ask?
I will tell you, there are some step-back periods when you do these roads, because we do a lot of drainage improvements and a lot of other things, so we don't have to start digging the roads up. We hold off on some roads to coordinate with sewage, gas lines.
Yeah, it's not that easy.
So by having a 1-year gap isn't as bad as it sounds, because that's going to allow us to do a lot of other things. As far as the really bad roads, I can just comment that I travel through a lot of roads here and there, and none of our roads in Simsbury are really bad roads, let me
They're
tell
really-
you.
I have to drive to
Take a
Hartford.
trip to Vermont right now, in mud season, you'll see some really bad roads. And what we do, though, we do try to keep the good roads good. So if we have a road that's totally falling apart, and there's not any out there, we're not gonna throw $1 million at that one road if we can use preventive maintenance every 6 miles. So, and that was the same principles that we used when we started this program back in 1984, and those roads that were horrible, mainly our collector-type roads like Firetown Old Farms, we went in and completely pulverized, reclaimed them, and resurfaced them. We don't really have a situation like that anymore, but the program is designed to keep the best roads the best, and then wait till you get some really big bucks to do.
All right, I think Peter has a follow-up question.
Actually, 3 questions. Now, with the roads, one of the things that we try to do here in the budget process is keep a constant flow of capital into needs. Like we did with the school buses, we try to smooth out. So I guess, in our mind, I think we had that presentation if we saw the schedule. So we know that the town's dedicating the right resources to the roads. It might come in a lot of pockets. I know the state's talking about LoCIP
Yes.
maybe not quite being what it was, too. So could be some issues where we have to spend a little more, so we have to at least see long-term.
Peter, I think they're skipping a year here. I think our budget delays it by a year, and that's what I'm raising.
Okay. But we could just see a long-term schedule, and that would...
always the way
That's not a
the
change.
program-
That's the same 6-year capital plan. We didn't recommend a change for this year.
But you're still stopping the regular spend level that you've been doing for a year, instead of keeping up the same level and moving on the roads, as if our roads are okay right now. And I think it's cutting back on roads for 1 year doesn't necessarily.
Well, there's no question that town road would like more money.
Oh, yeah.
I mean, let's not disagree on that. Absolutely. Trying to come in at a 1.5% budget with pension and put more money in roads, not going to happen. I mean, you can increase this budget $250,000, we can spend it on roads, absolutely.
Yes.
So, there's no argument from town staff or the Board of Selectmen. If you want to add back more money for roads, we will spend it. So,
Okay.
Paul, my second
We'll always give you money.
second question of the 3 is,
Write that down.
on the pension plan, seeing that we had to do a substantial change to it because we changed the investment return on defined benefit, do we now have a defined contribution plan?
Yes.
It
That
alludes
was
to...
negotiated.
So we have one, is that negotiated in?
It was negotiated in settled contracts.
So that's into contracts, new contracts?
New employees, right?
For new employees.
For new employees.
Yeah,
Tom, you want to
If
comment?
you don't mind, yes, we negotiated that with the 3 CSEA units, so that's about, when they were 50 employees. Maybe
12 CSA.
It's higher than that. And it'll be effective July 1st for new hires. So we're working right now to get that designed and implemented so that on July 1st, we're ready to roll.
So we'll have a level cost on that going forward, a fixed level cost?
For new hires, that's correct, exactly.
Right.
So,
But as I understand it, the new hires also have an opportunity to stay in defined benefit, except it comes with a steep price.
That is correct.
That's correct.
So they have an option. It's not exclusively.
yeah.
I had a long conversation with Sean about this, so.
Because right now, we're paying a good percentage of salary into this plan, especially with our lowering the investment return.
That's right.
Well, the other thing I'd like to add is that the CSEA has increased its contributions. They are currently at 2% of wages. That'll be going up to 5% on a schedule over time. So, and that goes to exactly what you were talking about in the defined benefit plan. The goal there was to try to bring some equality to town and employee contributions.
Will that be in this budget cycle coming up? Or
it will be, there is a 0.5% increase.
Overtime.
Yeah.
All employees or new employees?
No, this
all
is
existing.
for defined benefit plans. It's for all.
The defined benefit plan.
So the
contribution,
increase in the
yes.
contributions for all.
So we should get some savings in the
We
future?
should. Also, with the introduction of the OPEB, when the Board of Finance implemented OPEB, it was 100% funded by the town. We didn't produce a contribution this year.
I saw that, yeah.
So that over time would chip away on the town's liability.
Yeah, but we're going to have to address the investment rate in the OPEB plan at some point reasonably soon, because we're still at the 7.75% level.
7.5.
7.5.
7.5?
It was always lower than the pension
Yeah.
plan.
Well,
That
we didn't bring that
contribution
down.
hasn't been factored in yet.
Yeah.
Because it hasn't
Understand.
kicked in. So we'll experience that saving next year.
Well, it's a small plan. We'll have to just look at the
Small plan
experience.
is, contribution
Right.
helps. It helps. You know, it's the philosophy that the town is making a commitment to our employees, and the employees are making a commitment to themselves. So
Right.
we're happy to do it.
Right, and we just didn't want to address the OPEB this year because we're asking you to do a lot more on the other plans, so you got to smooth it out over a period of time versus shocks.
Paul, my
Peter,
last
go ahead.
question deals with reserves. Do we have an indication for this year how we're doing? You know, as far as the reserves look, as far as on the revenue side, and on the expenditure side, how our budget's going?
You're talking about where we'll be at this coming June 30th?
Yeah, June 30th.
Right.
I know we picked up some money because of the storm. We picked up a few hundred, about 400 and some odd thousand there.
Exactly right. I actually picked up and looked at it today. We're working towards it. What the biggest piece of the pie is our collection. We are collecting our taxes, and we collected 98.7%. 78% this year, this February, we're up to, versus 98.73% last year in collections. We are experiencing some areas that we're not making any money, but there are other areas. We are getting grants. We are seeing an increase in our building permits. We are seeing an increase in conveyance tax and recording fees. A lot larger than I anticipated a year ago. And we actually downed those numbers last year when we did the 6-month review. They are up this year, and I am estimating them to be higher next year because we are getting new development. People are, if you add an addition onto your house, or if you do anything that needs a building permit, we're getting the money for that.
What I'd like to see is if we could see, you don't have to see it tonight, but, you know, in the next week or two, we could just see a schedule with some kind of projection for the revenue, because, you know, usually the revenue is the one that drives most of it. And you've had turnback in expenses, but let's assume there's not going to be any turnback.
There's not going to be turnback this year. As a matter of fact, we're going to be coming to you.
Right, but I mean, as far as on the revenue side, because, you know, there's some requests in here where we're going to use reserves, so I'd just like to get a handle on
Right.
how reserves are, seeing that we're 3/4 of the way through the year. We should get a little indicator of what this year looks like.
We're actually pretty good. We just haven't gotten all of our state aid in. We're still waiting. One of the programs that we got last year was called Municipal Revenue Sharing, and I estimated it at $60,000. This year, to date, we've gotten $215,000. That program is going away under the governor's new proposed budget.
But it will help this year's
Yeah,
reserve.
it'll help this year's reserves,
Right.
but it is going away.
Right.
And I will know more information next week. There's a meeting tomorrow with the director of OPM, and I plan on attending to go over the new state aid figures that they're giving us, that the governor is proposing, because the town of Simsbury we're losing the pilot payment. He did some changes where he added more to LoSiP. He added more to Town Aid Road. He actually doubled the Town Aid Road account for next year. So those are things that those accounts are not on the general fund. So he added to those accounts, whereas the general fund side went down. It didn't go down a lot, but it
Mary
still
Ann,
went down.
we understand there are a lot of pieces in the pie that play into this. What Peter's asking for is, and I think I'd echo it, we'd sort of like to see on a regular basis a forecast of where we're going to be at year end.
Yeah, we can
Yeah,
give
we
you a
can do
budget
that.
status and
We
a
can
revenue
do budget
status.
status.
Yeah, because the revenue is,
Yeah.
Right.
because my indications are we should maybe be 800 to $1 million, 800,000 to $1 million ahead, unless there's something that didn't happen that we're counting on. You know, if taxes all of a sudden didn't come in,
Right.
or, you know.
That's, yes.
We have to cross our fingers and hope that we have a
And
good
there's
collection rate.
there's that one grant that we're still, I haven't seen come in yet, but that's a
So
big
just
piece.
with a view toward the capital improvements and what we might want to take from reserves, I feel like we're skipping on to the next agenda
Well, I'm
item
just,
maybe,
you know, I
but.
figure I'd ask it, so I just,
Yeah.
you know, we
We'll
don't
give you
know,
an-
we got to make
we'll
sure
give
we
you an
have.
We already
You
have
lost
some
your
things we've
question on the next
committed.
agenda.
We'll give you an
We've had some
update.
things we've already committed that we will let them to
Right.
take reserves out of, as well as we want to move money over for CNR. And we've had a discussion all during the year about CNR and what we might need to put into that fund balance, which is roughly about $400,000, somewhere around there. So
Yeah, I think
those are the
that's-
things we need
With the
to.
winter
doing-
season kind of winding down, hopefully, we'll have a better chance.
We've had some bad storms and, you know,
Yeah.
so you don't know. You know,
Right, right. But that would be good. Okay.
We understand it's a moving target, but we just sort of like
Give you
to
a
keep
snapshot
focusing in
of
on
where
it.
we are
Yeah.
at this time.
Yeah.
Right. Barb?
I have some sort of backup schedules that I know you've done to be able to do all this work and produce this that I'd like to request formally be provided to us. The first one is, it was helpful in Mary's presentation to see the full-time headcount. I'd like to see a schedule by department over year of FTE equivalent, and that will take into account your part-time for however many hours they are, so you equate your part-times to full-times and let us really see how many in total movement of headcount. Another schedule I'd like to see, in other years, we've seen the impact on some of the fund balances that, with this budget, and I noticed in the sewer area, I'd like to see an analysis of the sewer fund and what's happening to that, because it looks like we're taking some money out of it to do some capital projects that don't appear in the operating budget. So I'd like to see if there's any rate impact and what the impact is on the sewer reserve.
We don't have any, I thought that was a separate board in the sewer.
It
Yeah.
comes under the town.
It is,
They don't-
WPCA sets that.
Right.
Yeah.
But we still, but
We can tell you what it
they
is.
still, if there are changes or funds that they want, or they want a bond, they still have to come to the Board of
But any money
Finance.
coming out of that is being done by, not by the Board of
It
Selectmen.
gets approved by the Board of Selectmen. and the
Yeah.
Board of
Yeah,
Finance.
it's in the book.
It's in the book.
It's in the book,
Yes.
but not the detail to show where the reserve is going to end up.
Yeah, but just the WPCA is making the calls in terms of what's coming out.
No, I understand. I'm just asking for a schedule that will
No, that's
explain how
fair,
it all
that's fair, but
fits.
It's not like it's coming out to fund the Board of Selectmen budget.
I understand.
Correct.
I just want to make that clear for people who might be watching on SCTV, because it was implied.
I understand, but it's the only time we get to see this whole
That's
big
fine. No,
piece,
no,
and
that's
it's a
fine.
piece of it. The other thing that I'd like to see is, you have an operating transfers line, and I understand that there are transfers that go out, charges to fire district, for example, and in a prior year, we took a look at charges that may have gone out, interdepartment charges. So you have something called operating transfers, and I'd like to see the detailed schedule of what's the in and out that nets you to the transfers that you have in this year's budget.
It's the CNR
CNR.
accounts for 5 years and the police cruisers. That's all that's in there right
That's
now.
it. It's not used for
There's nothing-
interdepartment transfer.
No, that's all that is.
So how
Operating
are
transfers
you,
are the CNR for 5 years, and then it's police cruisers. That's it. No
so
other
how in
transfers.
your budget are you handling charges that go to anywhere else?
The fire district, we send them a bill because they owe us money. It's a reversal.
I understand, but where's the
Operating transfer.
expenses?
What?
Where are the
Charge them.
expenses?
Oh,
Yeah.
we should. Wait a minute. Let me-
No, where are your
We-
expenses?
It's actually in the tax office, and the fire district actually pays the town of Simsbury for dispatch services, for any services that they have. They are an independent authority, so they pay the town of Simsbury. We actually bill them.
No, I understand all that.
So it's an operating transfer.
You want
and
to see,
it's
I
in
think
the-
she's
I wanna
saying in
see
the
this-
ledger, you want to see
Right.
the bills going out, you want to see the schedule of the bills?
Exactly, the schedule of what the ins and outs are that are built into this budget.
The operating transfer is just the CNR and the cruisers.
Out.
So
Okay,
That's it.
And the
So
transfers
I don't-
that are in the fire.
I'm confused.
Well, let's say
Everything
let's
else
say
is
you're
in.
billing the fire department, you bill
It's a payment in lieu
partial?
of taxes. I called it a
Oh,
payment in
okay.
lieu of taxes, a pilot. It's
Where
a
do you
pilot
show
payment.
that?
Where
Do you
is
show
it?
the revenue?
It's on the revenue side.
Revenue.
It's in the revenues. It's a payment in lieu of taxes.
Can you show me in the schedule where that line is?
It's, if you go to the revenue budget, the summary report.
What tab you
it's-
on?
What tab are you on, Mary Ann?
It's the front tab. And it says, general fund property taxes, where we come up with these numbers. Payment in lieu of taxes, I'm estimating $256,800.
Not from us.
Next year. I was gonna say that. It's not all the fire district, I hate to inform everybody, it's not all the fire district, it's, we've been getting, we get a yearly payment from, Westminster School. We get money from the housing authority, the fire department, those are the people that.
I still don't see the tab that you're on, Mary Ann.
She's on this
Just on the
picture right in
case.
front.
Oh, okay.
From the book.
So I guess I'm asking for, do you have schedules behind these that show what's in? Yes, exactly.
Actually, you have it, by the way.
Where?
The mill rate worksheet. There's a tab that says revenues. If you were to go there, you would see
Right.
all those payment in lieu of taxes. It's there.
Okay, so it's not on the budget book, but it is in,
That mill rate worksheet.
it's in the
that I
mill rate
emailed to you
worksheet.
guys.
I'm looking at that now. Where is it in there? Revenues from other agencies, is that it, or?
Yes, that could be
It's
revenues.
one
from other
line
agents.
item.
It's in the mill rate worksheet?
No. There's a tab in the Excel spreadsheet that has multiple revenue
Oh, it's got
lines.
lines. It goes forever.
Okay, I know the tab you're talking about. I think Barb's
I
question
don't.
is, it's not in the budget book, but it is available to the board members through that mill
Yes.
rate
It's not
worksheet.
on
It's one of the
this.
tabs.
Yeah.
She's saying in this spreadsheet, there's another tab.
There's multiple tabs.
There's multiple
several.
Okay,
No, you're
I want to kind of move this discussion on. Thank you. You have other questions,
Yes, I
Barb?
do. I'd like to request that we get some presentation on roads, that we get something back that would show us that. And I'd like to see, and I think I'm reiterating a little bit what Peter said, but I'd like to see a schedule on revenue, the fund balance, and where you think we'll be at year end, so the revenues that will come in. And I think that's everything.
You want the Board of Ed? I hate to leave our friends out.
Board of Ed actually gave us a lot of this detail.
You got the revenue of your end for the Board of Ed?
No, no.
So you're just asking the town and not the Board of Ed, or you're asking for both?
So I'm asking for where you'll be on your reserves at year
Did you
end.
ask that of the Board of Ed? or
They
you
don't,
asked
the
that?
reserves
have
are,
reserves.
yeah, what are you talking about?
You said there are expense, where will be year end, our expense?
Reserves. Anything that's coming out
It's the
against reserve.
Reserve balance, right,
Yeah.
fiscal year end.
Oh,
Projection.
Yeah, the Board of Ed doesn't have
Yeah, they don't
Fund
have,
balance, not the town budget, or budget.
correct.
Right.
No, fund balance,
fund balance,
fund balance.
which, under the
Can I
board.
just ask a general question, which we're spending a lot of time on the roads, and other than Barb, sorry Barb, but I haven't really heard this concern throughout town. All I ever hear is from people how well maintained our roads are. I don't know about your road specifically, I don't know where you live, but is there a reason, I mean, are there lots of complaints coming into the town that we're not aware of on the Board of Finance, that we're not spending enough money on
It
our
was
roads?
not, it was not a concern of the Board of Selectmen. We did not raise it, it wasn't raised, no one has contacted us, but I'm happy to do it.
I mean, perhaps Jeff ought to familiarize himself with Tom Roy's study of all the roads, because it clearly inventoried all of the roads and their conditions, and there is an issue, there is a long-term planning issue
There's a
there.
long-term issue, but it's...
And
it's
some of them
being-
need some significant repairs at some point, capital.
That may be the case, but I guess my concern is that, the Board of Selectmen is doing their job to try to figure out how to balance and come in with our target each year. And again, I don't think it's our role to be micromanaging. I think we should be looking at long-term. But again, we ask the Board of Selectmen to take that on and tell us what they're doing. And I just think we're kind of spending a lot of time going overboard on certain areas. I mean, we could take every one of these line items and we could ask for more detailed reports and expenses in, expenses out, and we could ask on every one of them, Board of Selectmen, we want you to kind of substantiate or justify every piece of this.
Well,
I don't think that's the goal.
Well, it may not be the goal, but it is the purview of the Board of Finance if
It's
they
the
want to do
purview, but I
that.
guess
And
I'd like-
in many towns, the boards actually do that. They go through every line item with the Board of Selectmen or the Board of Ed. We tend not to do that. So
I think in light of the fact that since 2009, I think the budget has only gone down, and the budget is actually less than it was 4 or 5 years ago. So, I think...
Well, actually, this year it's even, but...
Well, that's in
Go
part
ahead.
because we're also asking for the contribution toward the pension. So I just think, we're spending a lot of time nitpicking, and that's all fine and good, but let's be clear, I think the Board of Selectmen has been very responsible.
I don't think
in
anybody's...
this
I don't
budget.
think
Yeah,
anybody is...
without due
doing
respect.
that.
The kind of questioning that I'm hearing seems to connote something different, that's all. So I just think...
No, I don't think, I think
Let's
it's
put it
the
in
ability of the
context.
board members, if any board member wants to go through it. I remember the first year I was chairman with Mary, we had a budget meeting, we went till nearly midnight. So to allocate an hour and a half for a budget meeting is not all that bad.
No, but we have two, I think, really important items.
We were eating out of the
We haven't
vending
talked
machine, I
about
think,
the
down at the
CFR
police.
yet, we haven't talked about the capital improvements yet.
Well, we're gonna
I
get
think
to the capital.
That is really more important than some of this nitpicking, that's all. I
Okay.
think we spent an inordinate amount of time on this, now we have a half an hour remaining for what I think we need
We
to
could go
dedicate more time.
longer if we need to.
I thought
Okay,
they
are you
had a
done?
meeting at 7.
Okay. All right, I want to go to a lightning round. Actually, I'm going to go through some of my questions
I'm
here.
just hoping that you are examining the Board of Ed budget as closely as you examine the Board of Selectmen.
We spent a lot of time on the Board of Ed
Okay,
budget. We did. We spent a lot of time.
We are 1/4 of that budget, and we get 75% of the scrutiny. And Jeff is right.
Mary, we spent a lot of time.
My time is your time.
Look at the tape, we spent a lot of time on the Board of Ed budget, okay? All right,
these kinds
I
of
have a
questions,
couple of
though.
quick questions going through here, okay? Is it okay if I go, or you want to
Of
go
course.
any more? Okay, all right, on the pilot, the money that we got from the Master's School or some of the other schools,
Don't get
not
any
Master's, I'm
money.
sorry,
We only get
Westminster.
Westminster
Do we
pays us.
get any funds from Ethel Walker?
We get no funds from anyone except for Westminster.
Okay, what's the exception there?
We
There's
don't
no
know.
exception. There's no, state law does not allow the
Okay,
town
so
to
they-
charge any school.
Okay.
Voluntary.
It's voluntary, okay.
And they're very private
Do we-
about that as well, Westminster.
We have.
Give them
Have we
credit.
asked them in the past? I'm just thinking about because
We
of,
ask for donations, we get one.
okay, that's all I wanted to know. All right, thank you.
Sounds like a one-way street.
On to the, your presentation was very good, by the way. We have a part-time communications director, Mary?
Yes.
Is that, okay. Some of these new slides, good format. Board of Finance will be holding a public hearing. I'd like to tap into that communications
Actually, that was
director.
done by Sean Kimball.
Was Sean?
Awesome.
Okay, okay.
The communications was added because of the storm, and the town felt we needed to beef up our CT alert and our Simsbury alert, and so we're
Okay.
presently using that position to focus on that.
Okay. Healthcare costs to the town, they've gone up. Do we have any indication of how much of that was related to the new Affordable Health Care Act and what that is?
Yes.
Tom's nodding his head yes.
It is about 0.5% of the total increase for this year. It is essentially a payment towards whatever the stop loss would be for.
Okay.
It's actually a number that's much higher for private employers, but
So 0.5% is coming from the Affordable Health Care in the town? Okay.
How can you isolate that? And to the extent that the insurance companies and the private sector are anticipating no pre-existing conditions,
Isn't it like reporting requirements and things like
It's a
that?
head count, right.
Yeah.
please.
It's going up, it went up before, it's going to go up after.
Gonna-
We could have a meeting all day tomorrow.
Keep going.
It's very,
But that number we got from Bob Lindbergh, we're confident that's right.
Okay.
And what you really should do is sit in on some of the insurance committee meetings where he spent, like this morning, he spent, 45 to
Easily.
50 minutes talking about some of the issues that surround what's going on with our...
Affordable healthcare.
Well, not just that, but you know, what we're seeing in our experience and claims and so forth, and what we're anticipating is going to happen as they introduce and put in place a set of laws that won't be complete, as he put it, until 2018.
Right.
Regulations,
Regulations, yeah.
Okay.
not laws. The laws passed.
Are you going to
Yeah,
ask a
we're gonna
question
do
about
it.
the building department?
No.
Can I?
Yeah, go
Now you're
ahead.
nitpicking.
No, I'm not nitpicking.
think they're already 14.
Mary, I'm under tab 15. On the building department, the request was for $110,000 more than what we estimate, and more than what we budgeted for this year, and obviously you said no to them, so what did they ask for? More? They want more staff?
I said no, and the Board of Selectmen said no, so it was a double no. And, we looked at this closely. I mean, obviously, it's good news that our inspections have gone up, and, we eliminated a second full-time position because we were really slow. And so we all recommended we did that. We're seeing it.
Part of it's salaries, but.
It's all salary. It would be all salary.
Oh, no, 105.
Oh, and it was all salary on the building official. He wanted to hire a part-time building official and a part-time secretary. And, we do a great job with building officials. And if you call for inspection, you get an inspection immediately. Other towns, you call for inspection, you wait a couple of days. So the net impact of not hiring full-time, not adding back all of that, is that you might have to wait a little bit to get an inspection. But we felt that, given the fluctuation, we didn't see that was a real hardship. The other funding was to do other studies. They asked for studies, additional funding for studies, and we did add some marketing materials and did add some of that back. Okay. But obviously, because it was such a small budget, adding $100,000 is significant in a small budget. Okay. All the time trying to control your costs.
On tab 4, under legal, the recommended budget, $166,000. Is that roughly the 5-year average? Because I know in the past we had wanted to use an average.
Yeah, our legal fees have come down over the last several years. Part of it was because we negotiated a flat fee, so we call for free rather than wait because we have a problem, and it's reduced our litigation. Okay. We only have one case right now, and it's a case where someone's challenging our authority of tax. So he wins, we're all in good shape.
Can we donate to who that individual is?
We felt that we've significantly reduced that cost.
But we don't have anything significant like Meadowwoods coming at us.
No, that's one of the reasons that's been helpful. Okay. On tab 5, I had a question under current year activities, and that was around it said separately, we will forward directly to the Department of Revenue Services state conveyance taxes with no remuneration to the town.
For the town clerk, yes.
Okay, so that is new, or is that ongoing?
It's ongoing. That's been going on for years. The town clerk gets the town clerk gets $1, the state gets 50. So we're going to look
Sounds
at this.
fair.
Okay.
Works very well with the town clerk. Okay, under tab 7, the Board of Finance salary and wages of $2,000. I want to make sure that everybody knows that's not to the members of the Board of Finance.
No, it is not. It's for your secretary.
Okay, that's right. And the expenditures are fairly stable. Okay. Under tab under tab 8.
Yep.
I think this was under
Thus.
right, your office. Just to echo Peter's comments, I think there are some things in there with respect to the Board of Finance that we can add as to measuring performances and some of the comments. Just for example, it says to provide input with coordination of the Board of Selectmen to issue new debt. I think that should say Board of Finance. So, just those little things that we'll provide. Okay, you see where I am?
Oh yeah, I see it. Yeah, it's in my.
It's just in Mary Ann's goals. Right. Okay. Mary Ann had answered my question under tab 16 previously regarding cruisers, that they were in there. I always like to make sure that, and the buses that are taken care of. Barb has talked about on tab 20 about the roads. I made a comment on the pension under tab 25, but you don't have to go there because we've addressed those. Under tab 27, there was, I think, a new page that needed to be inserted there,
Yes.
Mary Ann?
Yes, because I didn't realize it when we were pulling this in. We missed the $259,000 that you guys gave us last year for operating transfers for the projects. The project that you're missing was the dispatch console and the emergency generators. So we're not recommending any operating transfers this year for capital and the debt service account. So this is what we're.
Okay, so that's the new page, good.
That's the new page. Sorry about that. I didn't realize it.
That replaces the other one. Oh, I'm sorry, that was under tab...
25.
That was
26.
25.
25 or 27?
He's getting you a copy.
27.
27.
27, right?
I think
It
it's
was,
27.
yeah, it was 27.
Just Sean. He's spending way too big.
Okay, that's primarily the general questions that I had, or comments that I had. We addressed capital non-reoccurring, which, again, all of this tonight is just to, our only action tonight is to vote to move this on to the public hearing. Okay, we're at, and then we'll do a quick overview of the capital. After the public hearing, the Board of Finance still has another crack at these budgets, both Board of Ed and Board of Selectmen. Board of Education came in at 1.89 with the adjustments for pension. Board of Selectmen is at 1.71 with the adjustments, God bless you, for the pension. So at this point, for discussion purposes, the chair will take a motion to move this on to public hearing.
So moved.
Second.
Okay. Mr. North made the motion. Mr. Blumenthal seconded it. So,
Mr. Blumenthal made the motion and Barbara. Sorry. Is that
well, I
okay?
saw Mr.
I'm
North
sorry.
first, so I'll take it. And
Okay, doesn't
he's the
matter.
senior guy there. I'll let him take that one.
I'm happy
Okay,
to.
and who seconded it? Barb?
Doesn't matter, I think a
Barb
lot of us
seconded it.
did.
Barb
You're senior on the
seconded it.
board, not necessarily me.
Yeah.
No,
Barb
we all did.
Then Barb a second. Okay. All right. Further comments regarding the Board of Selectmen operating budget?
Only to say thank you for all the work you've done. I know you've spent a lot of time on it.
As a former member of the library board, I've been through the process, and so maybe I have just familiarity with what it is that Mary subjects the department heads to. So it's...
I don't know if I like the way you said that.
Sounds like correct.
And I think to the board,
Appreciation for that.
I think to the Board of Selectmen members too, as far as all of the time you spend on the workshops and going through. And I understand you had an extra workshop as well, so I hope Mary served you
you.
pizza. So, okay, all right. All right, there is a motion on the table.
I just want to make a comment.
Kevin?
You know, the gist of a lot of the comments that I heard tonight, particularly with regard to roads, but I think broadly, is that, you know, this board certainly appreciates seeing a budget come in, particularly including the funding for the a new assumed investment assumption on pension obligations. So we certainly appreciate a budget coming in like this, but I think the larger question is that underlying this budget are some strategic questions. For example, when we talk about what the contribution will be to roads, we don't have an accurate picture in real time about how we're doing on that strategic plan. You know, are we so far underfunding? In bringing in budgets like these, are we underfunding our long-term goal of having all these roads, you know, repaired over a course of 8 to 10 years? And I think, you know, it would be useful at some point, not necessarily during the, you know, height of the budget season, but really to get a picture of whether we're falling behind or staying on track to meet our strategic goals for, you know, the overall asset base of the town.
I think that you didn't know at all until we implemented the software program.
Understood.
So I think that, you know, the town was really in the dark as to what the funding was going toward and what the conditions of the road were until that program was introduced. I think having that program now has really helped us evaluate what we needed to do.
Right.
And you would have seen this number significantly increase, but Town Aid Road was increased. So I don't want to leave here with the impression we're not doing our job.
Again, I'm not even commenting on roads. I'm really just commenting that the town has a substantial balance sheet
Yes, but I think it's
of
important.
physical assets
I
that,
think that the Board of Selectmen has done a good job of reviewing that and increased budgets for tree maintenance. We actually have a line item. So I think your point is well taken, that you do, from budget to budget, want to make sure you're comparing apples to apples.
Yep.
But I don't want you to think that the Board of Selectmen in any way shorted our basic maintenance, but we now have a benchmark that we can hold ourselves accountable. Same thing in the police department. With the accreditation, we have benchmarks, not what the Board of Selectmen from year to year thinks, but what independent, professional people do. And we did that with the health district, that's why you saw that number going up. So I think it would be unfair to leave tonight's meeting saying that we're presenting budgets that don't meet the town's needs.
I don't think that's what he was suggesting.
I know, I'm saying we have we've gone to a professional benchmarking. The goals are intended to do that, so you can see what we're trying to accomplish with the money that we're getting.
Right. Did you want to continue, or?
No, I'm fine.
Okay,
fine.
Jeff.
I just want to say, too, I found the tabs very helpful, and on the road specifically, 2008, 3.5 miles, 2009, 4.5. In 2010, 11, and 12, we've gone 9.7, 15.75, and 19.36. We've resurfaced 25% of the roads in the last 2 years. So I think the town has really taken Barb's point in earnest and has made significant progress. And I agree it's fine to get an update when Tom can come to a meeting and let us know how we are in our strategic plan, but it certainly would appear from these tabs that we're doing pretty well.
So can I just make one last?
Sure, go ahead, Barb.
I also didn't want any of the questions to be taken as criticism. I think coming in with a budget at this level is a terrific job, and I think the Board of Selectmen, the town employees that have to go through all of it to get to this point, and everybody on the Board of Selectmen that sit through all this, we appreciate that. I think it's our job on the Board of Finance to ask some of these questions, to see the schedules behind so that we can make sure that everything ties and there's nothing missing. I think that's just part of what I see our job as. So it's not intended in any way to be micromanaging what you're doing. There's a million numbers here, and we really only asked about a few of them when you really look at the bulk of the book. So overall, I think it's a really good job, and I would just appreciate a little more detail so I can get comfortable with some of the backup. So,
right.
Thank you.
Good point. Okay, we have a motion on the table. All those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Aye. Any opposed? Okay, we've moved this on to public hearing. Now, Mary, we're going to talk about capital. Again, capital, the purpose for us tonight is strictly to determine whether to move this on to public hearing. It is not by moving anything on to public hearing that the Board of Finance is willing to move these on to the referendum. So I'm going to turn that back over to you, Mary, for discussion on the capital improvement plan.
Thank you. So I'm going to have Rick go through the details that we have in the backup. We implemented this program actually when we gave you the detailed backup. Thought that might be helpful. So if you gather the projects as well. We spent a lot of time on capital. We have Mary Ann on a number of cash flow analysis, not only for next year, which is really focusing on that this year has to finance and some taxpayers, but also some of our long-term plans. We had philosophical discussion because obviously some of the outline years, we don't really have good numbers. We don't really have good fleshed out projects. We have our recommendations from town staff that projects that they might see within their departments coming down the pipe. So it's a philosophical discussion we had about whether you put things on and not really fleshed out just to show what the long-term possibilities are, or do you not put things on because you don't have them fleshed out, but then when you get to the point where they might just pop up. So we wrestled with that philosophy. We primarily, that conversation came out with, if you look in year 2018, for example, we have $18 million of West Mountain Road area sewer construction. We spent a lot of time on that because obviously that's a big number. We had a lot of discussion with Jim Clifton, and we said, is that a real number? And the answer is, and Rich can talk to you about that, is it's not going to happen all at once. It's not going to be an $18 million project, but it is $18 million worth of sewer improvements that the town will face, somewhere down the road. And, you're going to need to maybe have a conversation at that point about, do you fund the entire project and then phase it in, or do you just fund it as you need it? The problem is that the sewer WPCA likes to approve the entire project and phase it in, because then customers know what road will be implemented or what time frame, and they have a better chance of getting new customers. So we did, and I appreciate the Board of Selectmen spending a lot of time really worried about the capital needs of the town, really worried about the funding, but at the same time realizing that these numbers really are placeholders for the outlying years, without a lot of backup and a lot of discussion, because they're really, quite frankly, not ready. So it's really just a philosophical conversation for the outlying years. In the short term, we felt comfortable approving 2014. One of the big issues out there that the board was concerned about, obviously, was something that doesn't appear on the list, and that is school safety improvement. We didn't have that recommendation. We spent a lot of time with the Board of Ed trying to really focus on a time frame by which we'll get those recommendations. And we expect, and Burke is here, but we expect that the report will be done by August, which means that we'll have better information for our long-term capital plan once that number is received. That number will also adjust some of the other outlying Board of Ed projects, and I don't want to speak for the Board of Ed in the Board of Selectmen's consideration of these projects. We felt that once we had that number, we would really be able to see how that affects some of the other school projects as well. So we really held off having an adopted long-term capital plan until we really had that number in front of us. But in terms of this year, a few projects. One is the emergency. You go through the 2014 emergency generator improvements. That was a project that the Board of Planning supported last year, but kicked down the road to this year. We still need it. We still request it. The Simsbury Center area charrette infrastructure, we can go into detail on that. The Board of Selectmen did reduce that number because we have several grants pending for some parking improvements at Eno, and we also have a discussion pending on where and when and if the town will recommend the senior center. So if the Board of Selectmen opts to go forward with the senior center at Eno, and we receive the funding, then we would come back and ask for the balance of that funding. If we opt not to proceed on that site, or not to proceed at all, then the Board of Selectmen would relook whether we even wanted to pursue the balance of that funding. So that number was reduced to 540. The Simsbury Senior Center design, if we want to go forward, and we'll be making a decision over the next few weeks, we will need to design a site, a location, in order to come up with a number to recommend to the taxpayer. So that's why the design funds are in there. We also, on the town side, have several projects. One is the truck wash. That project has been tabled for several years. It's something that we wish we didn't have to do, but we feel that with the salt corrosion on the trucks, we need to do, including this year. We also have had some interest by the fire district to share that, and we are going to pursue that. We also have to do some updates at Town Hall, HVAC, some of the main room improvements, the repainting, and that. It's really the carpets that are about 20 years old that need to be replaced in some areas. There is also some other technological, the teledata infrastructure and the Town Hall flat roof and the Eno flat roof, which we think we can take the funding out of for that. But those are maintenance items that we need to move forward. The Farmington River stream bank stabilization, that is coming out of the sewer use fund that Barbara referred to. That is recommended by the WPCA, and that is really to make sure that we don't have any problems with a lot of our pipe snips. That really needs to be done. That's on the Board of Ed side. They have the boiler replacement for Squadron Line. We spent a lot of time talking about whether that number was a good number, and the Board of Ed feels that that is an accurate funding request for that project as well. Rich, you want to add some details on that?
I think you did, Mary, if folks have any.
Yeah, I want to just jump in with some questions. Thank you, Mary. I appreciate that. First, I'll just give an overview. My concerns with the capital, not so much this year, but in the out years, is the known unknowns that we have out there. And you you mentioned one of them, which was the Hartford. I've got real concerns about that. We know it's an issue, but we don't know what's going to happen. Therefore, the term known unknown. The second thing is the status of state revenues. The governor's budget did talk about the car tax. We know that's off the table probably for this year. But something's going to happen down the road. So I've got concerns overall about state revenues. The safety study is something we don't know what's going to come out of that. We know we're going to have to deal with something with respect to the safety study. By the same token, it still would have to fit within the 7% of what we're going to have. So there's a lot of concerns there that I have with respect to that. Now, to get into some of just the little details, the emergency generator improvement, Mary, which you mentioned, I was under the impression that we were conducting a study on that to determine exactly what we had to do there before we authorized the funds. The same thing with some of these others. I think last year we had said we would take them out of the general fund when they came as requests. But, so Rich, maybe you could touch on that with respect to the generator.
Okay, thank you, Mr. Chairman.
Or Mary, if you want to. I'm sorry.
Thank you.
Mary,
last year we did, because of the monies that had.
Rich, you want to take that mic just since we're on SCTV? Although your voice probably would carry, I don't think it'd be a problem.
Last year with all the storm cleanups, we really felt we didn't want to take the risk of taking this money out of the general fund reserve, so we did split it up into a couple components. The Terrafil emergency shelter indeed is a study that's ongoing, and it includes looking at.
So that's what that is.
That actually was in a prior year.
Okay.
The reason the other projects are all pretty straightforward projects. They primarily involve recircuiting, so that we can make sure when our big generators come on, they serve the parts of the buildings that they're supposed to. That, to some extent, sounds a little unusual, but many of our buildings are quite old. They've been added on to over the years, so the circuit setups aren't as clean as they ought to be.
That's true.
So that is the case at the high school, our police, dispatch and emergency operations shelter downstairs, the Eno building, and the library. Specifically to the Eno building and the library, that circuitry would just be able to bring a portable generator in so we can put some heat in the building.
But we did do one generator project
we did
last
complete
year.
the generator project
That's in there.
for Squadron Line.
Squadron Line, okay.
School.
I knew we had done
Yeah,
one.
and that's to keep their kitchen and some of the other principal areas running. We also completed a generator project at our joint building and ground service center for a school department and the town.
Sure.
The Terrafil project is moving along a little more quickly because, interestingly enough, we appear that we're going to get a grant. So this would be our matching shares.
The 168 would be our matching share?
That's correct.
Okay.
And in this building, in addition to the recircuiting, we do have to find either a capability to bring a portable generator in or to have a small backup generator in line. Because one of the lessons learned after Alfred was that we have these big generators at our facilities, and the issues never come up. They run for a day or two, and that's it. But when we've got those generators pumping for 7, 8, 9 days, we have to take them down. They have to have some major servicing. So we're either going to set this building up so we can bring a portable in to cover the specific areas of the building we have to cover, or to have an additional standby. This money this year will complete the full funding request that we did last year, and that's what that's all about. And
Okay.
we feel that we will move forward with all of them.
And that's one of the discussions we had, and that's why those are listed as GF, general funds, so that we can take some of these funds, some of these projects, and take them out of the general fund, so we don't have to put them against our principal and interest of the 7%.
That's
Jeff?
correct.
I have a question on the Farmington River stream bank stabilization, the $1 million. And that's proposed to come out of WPCA.
That would come out of their sewer use funds and sewer assessment funds, it's a combination.
And didn't they have, I thought we determined they had a large reserve balance?
They do.
They do at the present, but you will soon make it disappear.
Right.
We've run a
That's what, that's the
we've
question
run a
I was asking.
15-year projection on that. We have paid cash out of that fund for our two major pumping facilities at Tungus Road and Wolcott Road and South Pump Station, and we would be paying this directly. In future years where you start to...
directly then?
Yeah, that's correct. In future years where you start seeing numbers like 18 million, as Mary explained, that's kind of just a heads-up number. But to move forward with a project of that type, we would be looking for clean water funds. We could not
Right.
sustain.
Similar to how we funded the renovation and addition up there, the 22 million.
That is correct.
Right.
We have no idea whether that 18 million is a really good, solid number, or what time frame it might happen in. Is that not correct?
That number for that time frame is a very good number. And what it does is provide service to the southwestern corner of Simsbury, for which our treatment facilities and main pipelines are capable of accepting that flow. But we do have to run what are called interceptor sewers into that area, as well as a couple pump stations. We have done the preliminary engineering on that, so those are pretty good numbers.
How long will it take to spend that money?
Normally, that money would be spent over a 3 to 4 year period.
3 to 4 years, yeah.
This
The
is
only
just our
reason
cost,
I
Rich?
put...
This is not the homeowner's cost to
No, that would, some of it would be recovered, but we have to front that money because then there would be additional street sewers in the
Is there a
streets.
study that shows like the payback? I mean, once we put them in, how many people hook up and?
Generally, we're finding that our payback on our sewer extensions is around 10 to 15 years. Most people start hooking up pretty quickly. Now, in terms of doing an individual street, we do rely on good interest in the streets. You know, we don't want to go and put a sewer in the street and assess folks if, 2 out of 20 want it. But the health districts has identified failures in that area. Those homes are all old enough that they will be coming up to failure time.
Are there places where they will be required to hook up?
At one time, the state, in fact, used to do that under order. I have not seen them do that for years. However, if sewers are in reasonably close proximity, the health district will not allow them to put another septic system in. But right now, in some of the areas off West Mountain Road, you could drop $40,000 to $60,000 on a septic system. So obviously, and then you get to pay the contractor on the day he's done. So in areas of poor soils and high groundwater, we do find a very advantageous situation for a homeowner, both in total cost and the fact that we finance it.
Mary Ann, do we have, I talked to you about this morning, the fact that I was concerned about, not so much this year, because I know what we have for projects we could pretty much afford for this year, but what about in the out years? Because there's a considerable amount of money,
Right.
$11 million for the year after, 13 million, 10 million. What is the actual amount that we can bond?
When I was talking after we did this last bond issue, we came up and I had the PFM, thank you, PFM give us new cash flows, and I gave you a cash flow analysis, so you could do 7.1 million in 2016, 6.6. Rapid drawdown after 16. We're going to pay off all of the 2005 and 2006 debt, and 2017 the debt just comes dropping. It's like a lead balloon. You pay off all of your debt. 2015,
The reason you can borrow more is we did an advanced refunding when I first started in 11. That project is for the 2003 school construction project. Your interest went from like $800,000 a year to $400. So it did drop by half. So the project, that project is coming on in 15, the advanced refunding, and we will pay off the old debt for that at that time. So that's why that should go up to 7.1. This year, we have some old stuff that's out there, but you could bring this new stuff on.
But still, basically, the two major projects out there that are under consideration, Henry James and a senior center, would blow that plan out.
Correct.
Okay. Mary, I have a quick question. I'm just blue skying a little bit here. Looking at Ethel Walker Phase 3, the 650, that, are we eligible for any further grants for that portion of it? Or would it be possible to use the funds from the hall transfer? Would we be able to possibly use those funds to pay that off and free up some capital?
Certainly could use that funding. I think the only concern about using, the only interest the town had, the Board of Selectmen expressed, is using some of it for maintenance.
Okay, so you could use a portion, but not all of it?
Correct, but there was, we asked for a study as to what the open space needs would be, so that a portion of it could be used. But there's certainly, the intent of the board was to apply it for open space purchases or maintenance.
It's a good one.
So,
Yeah, okay.
Absolutely.
So, but you wouldn't have to use it for all of it. I mean, you could use a portion if you wanted to cut that number down.
I think in an ideal world, we'd like to use some of it for maintenance, the rest of it could certainly go to use.
Yeah, that makes sense. Barb?
First, I want to say thank you for the cash flow analysis. I've been asking for that, and I think it's really helpful in seeing the timing. For next time, could we also get the debt service schedule, so we could see the existing debt service schedule? And then can you add a line to the bottom of that, which is what's the debt service assumed with this particular cash flow? So, just match the cash flow to the debt service schedule and let us know what it would cost to do this, the plan that you've got here. Then I sort of had a theoretical question, and it's kind of for everyone on the board, but also for the Board of Selectmen and really the Board of Ed too. Have we thought about the possibility that we may really, in August, decide that we're getting the results of our study and would like to spend money early on some of the safety requirements? And have we ever gone for approval at bonding to specify money to be put aside for safety investments in the schools and/or town, and not know exactly how it would be spent, but to specify some portion of, this year's 2014 stuff to be safety related, but not specified? Could we ever do that?
The Board of Selectmen talked about timing, and maybe with the Board of Ed, that if we felt we could, if the project came in and had to go to referendum, we would time it so that we're ready to go in November referendum. That was one discussion we had. Another discussion was that it would have to be specific enough so that it would meet bond
requirements.
Meet the bond requirements, yeah.
But I guess my question was
specific as to what the project is and what it will be spent for, because if we don't spend it for that purpose within a certain period of time.
You want to earmark like a $500,000.
Well, right. So my point was, if we're using, and I think we need to see that debt retirement schedule and put this debt layered in. But if we use up all of our ability to afford and stay within our 7% on the project listed here, would that tie our hands a little bit for whatever we'd want to go for in November? And so I just wanted to bring that in as a thought. Should we put a placeholder in this analysis? Because I'm pretty sure it's going to be something. I just don't have any idea how big that placeholder should be. But to have it off here completely felt like we might be missing something down the road.
Well, we knew it wasn't going, we can do that. You can also, depending on the number, you can set up a special revenue fund, which is an existing funds, which you can use for what purposes you get requirement. So that's another option. Appropriate funding. There's a lot of options, and we felt that we're not recommending a lot of projects this year. They're really just leftovers. Most of them are leftovers from last year. So we felt comfortable recommending those during this budget timeframe, and then wait until August to get the number, and then revisit the capital plan with the free board.
Two quick questions. SRF, what is that? It's not in your index.
Special Revenue Fund.
Is that special revenue fund?
Special revenue
Okay,
fund,
special
yes, I'm
revenue
sorry.
fund.
Special revenue fund.
Then number two, on the senior design,
Yes.
is this a full set of drawings or 204,000? What is that for?
What would be the 240 for,
Well, it's going
Richard?
to depend on which site you choose, isn't it?
Design on this was.
All right. As we often do with our projects, that's for what's called 60% design development.
60?
It would basically take us through, it would refine all the exact scopes, the construction and design, so you can do professional cost estimate that stops short of construction bid.
Could we do a less percentage, or do we have to do 60? Because I know the dollar.
If the board selects to go into a couple of the options, they are going to be expensive options, and they're going to be complex options, so I wouldn't go too much less than that.
But isn't it really dependent on what option the Board of Selectmen chooses?
Interestingly enough, we probably went a little bit further in our concept study than normally what would be done, and we do have very good cost estimates at the level we're at. And they're all quite comparable, so there's not going to be a lot of difference for either one of the three sites.
We asked that exact question. We said if the board decided on which option prior to requesting this funding, is it possible one of the sites would be?
You're down to what, 3 or 4 sites?
Three.
At this
We wanted the cost to be less, and as Rich said, they're all would be needed.
Really what we're looking to do is to get a cost estimate for a senior community center construction and other down to 5.7. And I believe that can be done, but we are going to have to really refine our programming size and construction types. So I think it's prudent to spend that design money to get our project money estimate to 5.7, and I think we could do that.
The center area charrette infrastructure for $540,000, does that support doing something at Eno? I'm looking through this, and while there's some things that are specific, like sidewalks, landscaping, there's others that seem to be a little, aging center area infrastructure will be improved in coordination with private investment. What
The center area charrette infrastructure, which is shown in FY 2014, is to implement a number of the improvements, sidewalks, landscaping, lighting, drainage, and so forth, essentially in the block bordered by Station Street, Railroad Street, and Wilcox Street. However, in any case, we would be looking to coordinate that work with perhaps Eno or with other private investments, as well as a more extensive sewer improvement program. So there's definitely some coordination. We also expect to get a grant towards that too. So we wouldn't move forward unless, 2 or 3 of those other items I mentioned happen. In fiscal year 2016, the money is specifically in support of a parking deck structure. And that would only happen if Eno Memorial is selected to be the senior community center, or if some major private investment monies came in that would make it prudent to put a deck in.
Regardless of where the center is.
Yeah, that's correct. In the end, all of this would have to be integrated together. We're not going to go out there and start spending that $540,000 without seeing where we're going.
Yeah, Jeff, I'm sorry, Jeff wanted to be recognized first.
I know we asked, I think last year, that you put everything on here so we can see the long term. And I just had a question, the Simsbury Farms apple barn renovations, that kind of came as a little bit of a surprise, almost $2 million.
Yeah, we had a lot of discussion about that too, Jeff, because obviously that project will be contingent on whether we move forward with the senior center. When that project was proposed, we didn't have a senior center on our plan. So if we don't move forward with the senior center, that's an option. If we do, that may not be needed. So there was a lot of, timing of presenting the capital plan at a time that we don't know if we got our budgets and we haven't made other decisions is a little tricky.
The additional program areas, if we didn't have the senior center, would serve, for the Applebaum would serve, okay.
Just like the school safety study will impact a lot of the other projects that are already on the capital plan.
Right.
So we're kind of
Right. I'm sorry, were you done? Kevin?
Two things. Number one, on the charrette infrastructure work, it would be useful to have effectively a site plan marked up to show where the areas of improvement are. I think just it's easier to envision it when you can look at effectively a map of where the improvement is.
It's really similar to what we've already started doing, completion.
I assumed, but
we can identify. That's a good
we can put that together.
For example, yesterday, and I rarely do this, but yesterday, instead of doing a round trip on Iron Horse Boulevard, I walked up at the Simsbury Bank and crossed Route 10 and walked south.
I'd like to discuss.
We have virtually non-existent sidewalks there that are falling apart. And the question is, has that been taken into the inventory? Second observation. Yeah. You know me, I'm easy.
That's what I thought I'd ask.
Okay, Nick, you had
No, I'm not done.
Oh, you were done, I'm sorry.
Second thing, I just have a question on the possible construction of a parking deck. Does that ultimately free up the surface parking for private sector development down there? And to the extent that it does, would the sales proceeds or whatever might come from releasing those parking lots be used as a consideration for offsetting the cost of doing the project for the seniors at Eno?
Well,
because there's an economic benefit, clearly, or an offsetting economic benefit to freeing up all that land that's wasted on surface parking.
a lot of the surface parking is owned by the state.
They'd have to.
And so we have.
But we have first dibs on it,
We
right?
have an agreement that we would have an option to basically purchase it and then flip it to private investors. So that was part of the Charrette Center plan.
Right.
But the town wouldn't get the revenue, the state.
We actually have tried to introduce some legislation where the state might release that little particular requirement. But yes, that is a possibility of the state legislation.
Very attractive.
We're trying.
Money to us.
Well, you get the hotline, Mary, just call them.
I'm good, but not that good. But the other option would be, if we didn't do the senior center email, that would mean that the parking spots would be available for some of the business owners to rent. And that would also generate some revenue. There's a lot of opportunities in the mix. And we applied for 2 grants, and we don't know where those grants are yet.
Okay.
So we're trying to leverage all of the options.
Thanks.
On the parking deck, we actually did have a study done by Desmond Associates, who's kind of the premier parking deck design companies in the country. And we are looking at fob systems and shared times, and those are a little bit different concepts around here, but I just did a little traveling, and they're pretty common.
Yeah, they are.
And people get used to parking where they're supposed to park at varying times. And
Yep.
I got told it once you lost me because I wasn't quite so good at it. And they definitely make money just on that little aspect alone.
Just a fine.
You didn't read the sign?
Nick, you had a question or comment?
I'm sort of wondering if the board has any appetite for trying to expand on, I'm going to be labeled a heretic, but expand on our 7% guideline. Interest rates are so low, I don't see why we're not trying to do some of these projects now while the rates are.
I mean, that's worth having a discussion about.
How much would a 1% increase in the debt service policy, or at least a one-time 1% increase in the debt service policy?
No, that's exactly what I'm.
I'd have to,
Yeah, yeah.
I'd have to go back and ask, but I do want you guys to know that I actually
Well, 7%.
I actually asked PFM if I were just to clean out all my old projects that are out there that I need to pay, we got to borrow for.
and borrow like $2.6 million during this year, what it would do, what it would impact, and it does impact. And I said, can you do it on I actually wanted to do a 5-year. I want you all to understand I wanted to do a 5-year, and they said it would be very high, over the 7%. But they did say,
Term is 6.
they did say that they could do, I could do it over 10 years, and it isn't as large of an impact. So if we were to borrow in this calendar year again, to put on some of the projects, the boiler, pay off the district network infrastructure piece, the Owensbrook Greenway, the other projects that are here that we could, borrow for plus.
8% would be 900,000.
And I did say that because of the low interest rates, we did enjoy it. But we can get that information. I have it in my office, but.
So roughly a $900,000 increase using a 10-year bond would probably allow you to pick up another $7 or $8 million of projects.
Yeah.
Roughly. I know you're the guy who could do that stuff in your head, not me. But I would say probably somewhere.
I shut my mind down when you said go up from 7 to 8. I was thinking of going down to 6.
Yeah. Well, he said he was going to be declared a heritage.
But it is an idea, because I actually floated that too this year. I wanted to see what it would look like because of the low interest rate environment that we were in.
We got 1.2% on the bond we just did.
Yes, that is the lowest we've ever had.
1.29.
It's a tremendous opportunity.
You could do a lot of roads.
You could do a lot of roads.
You got Barb's support.
Well, I think one thing we have to be careful of is we have to look at the true needs of the town. And we've been following a policy which has been pretty prudent over the years.
Peter, I don't disagree, but when we did the high school program, we took steps before we did the project, knowing that we were going to go, what did we go up to, like 10%?
We were.
We never went over 7.5.
Well, we were prepared to go to 10.
We were prepared.
Okay.
But it didn't cost that much in the end because of cost savings.
My point is, we all know that within a few years here, the high school project is going to come off and, is going to give us the capability of
and interest rates probably aren't going to be at 2%.
And we're not going to see this environment
in
again.
your lifetime, ever again.
No. Anyway, okay. Well, I think really the primary thing we want to do this evening is, and my question is the board willing to move this capital improvement plan onto the onto the public hearing as it is? And if so, then I'll take a motion to do so.
So moved.
Second.
Okay. Further discussion? Okay, I have a comment. Just to make sure everybody's clear, this is only moving this on to public hearing. This is not an endorsement of this plan. As you remember, last year, we moved it on to public hearing, and before we went to referendum, we had a considerable amount of discussion. I would expect we may have something similar, but not to the level of intensity that we have. I do have one other thing before we take the vote, and that is just to, on the mill rate worksheet that Mary Ann sent out, everybody to know, we're currently, excluding the fire district, at 31.37 mills. If we adopt this budget as presented, it would generate 37.28 mills, okay? Keep in mind, that is a reduction due to revaluation. So because it's gone down, you're going to have an increase, all right? I ran some quick numbers based upon what Mary was saying regarding the averages, and under the current scheme, a home assessed at $231,000 would have a tax liability of $7,246. Under the new scheme, a medium home with the same home with a taxable liability of $193,000 assessment would now have, under using 37.28 mills, would have a tax liability of $7,195. So actually a slight reduction.
For the median.
To the median. That's only to the median. So some people are going to do better, some people are going to do worse, but at least that gives you a rough idea. So I just wanted to throw that out there before we made a vote on this.
That's
so.
if you used to be the median and you stayed the median after reval.
Right. There's a
Chances
lot
are
of
finding
moving
that
parts.
house might not be possible.
There's a lot of moving parts.
Right.
Is there any way we can get, David?
And that's just your house, that's not the car.
Right.
That's not
Your
the
car's
car.
going up.
The car is going to go up.
Right.
Cars are going to
Is
go
there
up.
any way we can get David Gardner to give us some idea of what the dispersion around the median is on all these reval?
Mary?
50% either way.
I'm afraid you might be right.
I know.
It is, it is.
I mean, I think he can tell you
I think that's,
anecdotally what he's saying. but
That's
it's hard
tough.
to-
Okay, I have a motion on the table. Any further discussion? All those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? Okay, there's no new business to come before the board, and I'll take a motion to adjourn.
Motion to adjourn.
All those in favor? Aye. You're done, thank you. All right, thanks, everybody. I appreciate the detail of the questions.
So,
I said I appreciate the detail of the
you know how on
questions.
that schedule she says the source of funding? We're not really moving that to public hearing, we're just moving the list of projects, right?